So it's already time to begin, but I think we will wait a little bit. I propose to wait maybe something like 5 minutes, because for the moment we are 56 and we are supposed to be 140. So I propose to wait 5 minutes more.
Oh, there is light in Australia.
Hello, Jose.
How are you, Paul?
I'm well. It's late at night. It's so late I can almost see Tuesday. About 10 o'clock at night, Jose. I can't see you at all.
Why not?
I don't know.
I don't know. Let me see. Okay, here we go. Aha.
I can see you now, Jose. I can see you now.
Ah, Jose.
London.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Jose. How are you? Mr. Jose.
Dr.
Here from India.
I'm having some excellent Nicaraguan coffee.
Oh, that's
honor of
very good.
I just went there. We have an organic coffee here. We have very good Nicaraguan coffee. Ah.
Hello? Hello? Bonjour? Bonjour à toi, Clovis. J'essaie de récupérer l'image. Ah, d'accord. Voilà, c'est bon. Ouais, ok. Comment tu vas? Hello, David. Hello, Paul, and so on. Hello.
Yeah. And so on. Monsieur Debré, how are you?
Fine, fine, Jose. And you are in London or in South America?
I wish I was in Guatemala. I'm in London since the end of January.
Okay.
South America is all right, Jean-Pierre.
It's so difficult to travel. Hello, Eduardo. It's
Hello,
I am really happy to see all of you because it's a long time we have not this kind of meeting.
For sure.
No, congratulations to Eduardo, Jean-Pierre, and Timothée for putting this together. It is great to see everyone.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully the next time it will be for real.
Yeah.
Hello, Eduardo.
Hello, David. How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
Nice to see you all.
Before I forget, Jean-Pierre and Timothée, we might be having Julien de Normandie speaking at our November seminar on innovation and sustainable agriculture.
Well, excellent.
Yes, it's good thing, but are you sure he's the minister, agriculture minister for November?
For everyone to understand, Julien de Normandie is a Ministry of Agriculture in France.
Yeah.
But Jose, we wish French farmer, wish he continue his job in agriculture ministry.
I know you can use your power to keep him in place until November. The day after the seminar, you can do whatever.
We try, but
Yes,
you will see the result in November.
Okay, everyone, like I see, it's already 1:55 here in France. I suggest that we can begin and people will join. Just before me to let the mic to Eduardo Romao, I will just inform you that this meeting is recorded, so that people who was not able to join us, they can see it later. I will send you the link. Just remind you also that I will send you the PowerPoint when it will be finished. And please don't feel sad if I cut your mic. It's not because I don't want you to speak. It is because sometimes it's difficult for other people to hear very well when a lot of mics are opened. So if you realize your mic have been cut, don't take it for you. It is just for the other to listen more easily. Eduardo, maybe you have the floor.
Thank you, everybody. For here in Brazil, it's good morning for everybody. Are you listening all right, Timothy? The sound is good?
It's perfect,
Oh,
it's perfect.
Yes, thank you. For those farmers and growers, it's a pleasure to be with all of you here. And welcome for our WBCG virtual meeting. And we missed the opportunity to go to Australia, a leading country in industry. And I would like to say to you, Paul, thank you very much for all you have done for this meeting. You and Dan, it's very important for a lot of us. And I wish that soon we can meet by Rio, and when we can talk a little more. I'm very proud that today we had more than 140 registered already, just like Timothy said, 25 countries. It's a record high for us. It's very important. And I would like also to thank all the participants that is going to present us all the kind of productions, the area, and the yield. For us farmers, it's just the same trouble that we have. The prices that just go up and down. The same with the climates, that sometimes too much water, sometimes too few waters. And the new plagues. That's why the WPCG exists. Just to enable to we know each other, to share technology, and this technology we share among us, just let us go further. And thank you very much. I'll give the floor to you, Timothy. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. I will put the presentation. And it will, I think it will work. Here is it. So just a few words before to let you the floor. Like you know, what is important is that we are 27 countries here, and we will have to stop in 1 hour and 30 because it's already very late in some country like Fiji or Australia. So please, in 1 hour and 30, we will have to stop the meeting. So no more than 3 to 4 minutes per country, please. And I will be the one who manipulate the slides. We are more than 140 participants, so please cut your mic and open it only when you have the floor. Otherwise, I'm sorry for that. I will have to do it for you. Another point, don't forget there is no translation. So for English native speaker, it's very easy. But for all the other one, it's difficult. So please speak slowly and use basic English only so that everyone can understand you. If you want to speak or if you want to comment, please use the comments thing at the right of your screen, and then at the end I will summarize your intervention. Otherwise, you can raise your hand, and we will give you the floor at the end of the meeting. So I suggest that we begin, and we will begin by A, like Australia, and you have the list of the countries on the right side, and you will see at the end of each speak, like for instance here at the back right, you will know when you will be the one to speak. So now we are beginning by Australia, and then it will be Austria. So Australia, I think it is Paul Scambray that will have the mic. So please, Paul, you are president of Cane Growers Australia. You have the floor.
Well, thank you, Timothy, and good evening to you all, and greetings from Australia. It's around 10:15 here tonight, and Eduardo, I thank you for those comments, and we are very much looking forward to hosting the virtual session to give people from the global sugar industry some insight into the Australian sugar industry. We're devastated that we couldn't host it in Australia, but nonetheless, we'll do the next best thing, which will be to give you an insight into the Australian sugar industry. So just a brief report on the Australian sugar industry. We're going through some major challenges as an industry, but I suspect that globally, every sugar industry around the world is going through enormous challenges and difficulties, but we are well known for our resilience, and certainly we are working our way through the challenges. On a positive note, obviously everybody has welcomed the increase in world sugar prices. We've seen sugar prices get up to around $500 a tonne Australian. That provides great relief to us because certainly in the context of the last 2 to 3 years, we have seen sugar prices at or below the costs of production for the last 2.5, 3 years. So certainly that burst of sunshine in terms of increased sugar prices has certainly come as a great relief to the growers and millers of the industry. Our industry is very proficient at forward pricing, and certainly the farmers have taken advantage of the upturn in sugar prices. By just using a phone, we've got apps on our phone, and literally on any particular day at any hour you can lock in some pricing. So certainly in Australia they've been certainly taking advantage of forward pricing. I did advise a couple of years ago that we believe that the low world price environment that we've been through has been due in large part to export subsidies, particularly emanating from India, and I just wanted to update you in relation to that. We're not subsidised as farmers, and so as a consequence, we need to ensure that there are fair international trading rules. So Australia, Brazil and Guatemala took an action in the WTO some 2.5 years ago. We are at a stage now where that process is heading towards some completion. The formal hearings have been concluded, and whilst we are in the midst of some administrative processes, we still think that we will have a decision in relation to this issue in terms of the initial findings by around June or July. Just very quickly, an update on the harvest. We have started in Australia. The first mill got away on June 1st. We are anticipating a crop of around 31 million tonnes in Australia, and that's slightly up on last year. That's about 29 million in the state of Queensland and 2 million in the state of New South Wales. I just want to say to you that the contrast in weather in Australia has been extraordinary. We were supposedly or ostensibly to be in receipt of the La Nina, but I'm not sure that the full La Nina made it to Australia. And as a consequence, some parts of North Queensland have had 2.5, 3 metres, but most of us, or at least the areas that supply around 60% of the crop, have only had below average rainfall. So we've got our fingers crossed. We're looking forward to a successful harvest. Sadly, last year we closed 2 sugar mills, and that's the legacy of possibly low world sugar prices in conjunction with drought. We've had an enduring drought on the southern coast of Queensland. And of course, one of the pressures that we are under is that a lot of our land is under competitive pressure from avocados, macadamia, vegetables, and certainly in my region, from the beef industry. So certainly it's disappointing to close sugar mills, but the residual cane in that area, we have been able to transfer it to other mills. So just to close down, I just want to close down on 2 issues. Just want to give you an update about the environmental pressure that we are under. Certainly Australians ascribe a very strong value to environmental sustainability, and there is a strong affection for the Great Barrier Reef. Queensland Government introduced in 2019 a reef protection bill, and we'll see the first rollout of the bill this year. It's very prescriptive in terms of the use of chemicals and fertilisers, and prescribes the permissible rates for the use of chemicals and fertilisers. And also it is onerous in terms of record keeping. Well, the Queensland Government has introduced another element, and so it's going to make it very difficult for us to expand. So if a farmer wanted to bring in some new cropping area greater than 5 hectares, he would have to make an application to a central environmental authority, and that's another bureaucratic step that we could do without. So it's certainly going to make it somewhat difficult to expand. Can I just say on a positive note, last year we became the 2nd largest exporter of sugar in the world, and that means despite all the adversity, we still can remain as a world-class, highly competitive industry. Just one sentence in relation to the pandemic. We've handled it very well in Australia. There is no community transmission, or very little, if any at all. So we've had very little operational impacts on our industry. The downside, however, is the Australian border is closed and likely to remain closed for at least another 12 months. So it will be some time before we catch up with our good friends in the global sugar industry. I'll stop there, Timothy.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you. And we will now go east in Europe, in Austria. And in Austria, the one who will speak is Markus Schöbel. Markus, you are the director of the growers, sugar beet growers in Austria. Markus, you have the floor.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. In Austria, we have had particularly difficult condition in recent years because of a special pest, the beet weevil. In the first slide, you can see the significantly reduced area in the previous year. This is the remaining area after the pest infestation. For the year 2021, we have had an increase to the normal area, which is necessary to supply our 2 sugar factories with beets. But this was quite difficult after the problems we had in the last 3 years, and I will come back later to this. On the next slide, you can see the area losses to the weevil in the past 3 years, which was enormously high compared to the beet cultivation area, and amounted to about 20 to 25% of the sown area. For this year, for this year's growing season, we reached an agreement with the Ministry of Agriculture last year to provide financial support to cover the resowing costs in the event of a pest infestation. This made it possible to motivate beet farmers to believe in sugar beet cultivation and to construct sufficient area for 2021. Concerning the beet weevil, experts and researchers told us last year that wet conditions in the soil will infest the weevil larva and will reduce the occurrence of weevils in 2021 enormously. And fortunately, we had a lot of rainfall last year, and this theory becomes true. As a result of this, we have had just a very small infestation this year, and we've lost about 150 hectares, so nearly nothing. The remaining weevils were regulated or are regulated by neonicotinoids in seed treatment, which we have got by derogation in Austria this year. This year, the main losses of beet arrowhead were caused by an early frost. We've lost around 900 hectares, but the losses were all compensated for by a successful resowing. During the sowing period and the weeks after, it was very dry, but in May we had enough rainfall, so we are looking forward optimistically for a good beet crop this year. So that's my short report from Austria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Thank you very much. We are now moving quite close to Austria. It's Belgium, and I think the director Peter Hegeman could not join us, but maybe someone from Belgium want to take the floor. Otherwise, I will give you the figures. What Peter wanted to say that beet price was considered like too low to cover the costs and to be competitive vis-a-vis other crops. Second point, no additional beet processing factory. You remember maybe that they had a cooperative project, but it has been abandoned. And they wanted to emphasize the point that there is a big challenge in Belgium to find sustainable alternative to neonics treated beet seed. I remind you that neonics in sugar beets are used to kill aphids that can bring the yellow virus illness. Now we will move to Belize, and in Belize we will have the director of the Belize Sugarcane Farmers Association, Oscar Alonso. Oscar, you have the floor.
Hi, good morning everyone, and greetings from the 3,360 members of our Cane Farmers Association. I must say we are proud to be along with Australia. Australia has the largest barrier reef in the world. Belize has the second largest barrier reef in the world and the largest in the Western Hemisphere, right? And we, as you can see, this year we're having an average crop compared to last year when we had experienced the lower production and lower production of sugarcane and sugar due to the previous years of drought and floods. And as you can see, therefore, the acreage more or less remains stable, and the yield also. The sugar yield has increased slightly, right? Okay, and total sugar production this year will be roughly 112,000 tons instead of the 92, because the way we are given our price estimates is that it changes every month. Now, when this estimate is provided to us. Sugarcane in Belize is grown in two areas, right? The central and the northern areas, and there are two mills. You have the mills for Belize Sugar Industry, which is owned by American Sugar Refining Incorporated, which also owns State and Lyle. And then we have Santander Sugar Limited, which is owned by Spanish nationals and is located in the Western District. The figures that are presented are only the ones that reflect in the north, because we do not get figures for the ones that are produced in the western part of the country. In any event, What we have for this year, we estimated that we would mill 1.3 million tons of sugarcane to produce the 112,000 tons of sugar. It will be much more than that. The mill's estimate is only 1.1 million tons of cane to produce that 112,000 tons of sugar. We have also that, and most of our sugar that we produce is exported. Almost 90% is exported to the US and United Kingdom, and we only consume a little above 10%. As we had indicated in our sheet there, there are two main factors that we are concerned about, which is the continued persistent depressed world market prices of sugar, which I think at the moment stands about 17 cents per pound, no? Which hardly gives us room for to cover our expenses. Okay, in Belize, we have our farmers have signed a commercial agreement with the Belize sugar industry in which we get payment in 3 portions. At the moment, we get our first payment based on a first cane price estimate, and then at the end of the 5 weeks after the crop, we are paid the second payment, and in November we're given the third payment. Now for this year, based on that price of the world sugar market, the first cane price estimate has not changed much from last year. Okay? The first cane price estimate is presently at $23.69 per ton of cane. Of course, this will increase slightly when we reach to in November, because the final cane price in November last year was $27.62 per ton of cane. But in that payment, in the final price that we get for cane, is also included a small payment for bagasse, which last year amounted to about 24 cents per US per ton of cane. Okay. Now what we are faced with is that in January 2022, the agreement that we have signed with BSI expires, and this year we'll be negotiating a new agreement. And I think we will have problems with BSI that we want to consider bagasse as part of the payment of sugarcane. So we're looking forward to quite a very difficult negotiation process, because we feel that the way things are going now, I think farmers or producers are trying to get payment for every part of the cane that is that they sell, no, to a miller or any other processor. Now, the other issue that we have mentioned there relates to climate change. As you know, we sit in an area where we're exposed to hurricanes. Last week, June 1st, the hurricane season began, and we run the risk of getting a hurricane between now and the end of November. Fortunately, last year we weren't affected much. We got fringes of hurricanes that affected Honduras and Nicaragua, okay, which in a sense was beneficial to us, because it restored some of the cane that had been affected by the drought in the previous years. No, however, we're fine since sugarcane in Belize is rain-fed. We do not do irrigation farming in Belize in the sugarcane fields, right? And year after year, we're noticing that the droughts are becoming more severe, and when we have rains, the floods become much more intensive, and we do not have proper drainage systems. This is presenting a major challenge to us. But fortunately, we've been able to obtain a grant from the Green Climate Fund through the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, which is based in Belize, for about $5 million, that will enable us to see how we could replant at least 17,000 acres of cane with climate resilient varieties. The main variety that we have in Belize is B79, right? I think it's about 60% of our cane is with that variety, and we are also concerned that variety could pose risks in the future for us. So the need to proceed with as much varieties as is possible. We're also thinking with this project to do some some piloting with regards to irrigation and drainage, and also to see how we can begin mechanizing the harvesting of sugarcane. Cane in Belize is harvested through the burn system. We need to burn our canes, our cane fields. There's a lot of snakes in our cane fields, right? The terrain is not appropriate for mechanized farming, but nevertheless, we know that we will have to see how we can venture in that in order to begin to benefit from carbon credits too, right? Okay, so this project will be over the next 5 years, and we hope that it can bring tremendous benefits to our members and enable us to maintain sustainability and profitability. One other factor that we face that is a challenge are the pests. One of the main pests that we're experiencing right now is the stem borer, right? And it has been increasing over the years. And this year we're trying to see how we can really bring this problem under control, because it affects the quality of the cane and, of course, the sucrose that we're able to extract from that cane. In brief, then, the sugarcane crop is more or less average in Belize. We started out, generally it starts in December and ends in June, but this year, because of the rains in December, we were not able to start until late December. And again, the rain started, and we had more rains in January, so we had to stop and resume it around the middle of, or the third week of January. And we hope to see if we can finish the crop by mid-July. Now, one main aspect of this is that farmers, another issue that we are faced with the mill, is that the mill does not guarantee that it can grind all the cane that we produce. And farmers are very concerned, because when American Sugar Refining invested in Belize sugar industry, it came with the promise, right, that it would increase the grinding rate to 335 tons of cane per hour. And that is since 2012. To date, it has not achieved that, right? And farmers every year have been left with canes in the fields, and they have suffered tremendous losses Last year, there was a change in government in November, and this government now has started to see how it can assist these farmers that are suffering these losses. So much so that this year it has granted a 50,000 ton cane license to Santander to receive canes from our farmers, so that they will be able to deliver within the short period that we have that remains for the dry season, so that they do not lose their cane and suffer losses. But we are having resistance from the Belize sugar industries, that they say they intend to grind all the cane, but they do not give us any guarantee. So we're seeing.
Thank you, Oscar.
Next year we'll have a much more better. And we thank you very much, right, to be here, and we wish the conference all success.
Well, thank you very much, Oscar. Thank you. We will now move south, and we will go in Brazil. And the one who will make the presentation in Brazil is the director of Orplana, the cane growers, Denis Arroyo Alves. Denis, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be again with you to talk a little about Brazil and the sugarcane production. I represent here the Orplana organization of Cane Producers Association in Brazil. We have 31 associations, more than 12,000 producers, and 60 million tons of sugarcane. The first information here is important. We estimated in April these numbers, and we see crops smaller than the last year. The problem is our drought continue. In the summer, we have a third of the rain, normal rain in the regions, the main important regions. And the situation with these numbers are worse now in June than April. So we can see here reduction in hectares in area, reduction in planting yield is very important because the drought season is terrible. Last year, it continued this year. So this will impact in sugar production and ethanol production, sure. And a point very important to say is we started to compete in the main regions with soybean production. The profitability from soybean is normally 7 to 10 times more than sugarcane. So this impacts in Center East, but started to impact on São Paulo state too. This put a lot of pressure on our production. When you see the sugar are a huge reduction, but in the ethanol is the same. And the government here in Brazil are very concerned with the capacity to the mills to support the ethanol to the flex fuel cars, but the anhydrous too. So it's a smaller crop. We estimated in the beginning 7% less than 2020, but today we discussed numbers like 10 or 15% less. So it's more than around 60 million tons of sugarcane less. Okay, the next, please, Timothy. The main points is the drought continues this year, extended through the summer, and now continues in the fall. So this we start later our crop season, and the number is this, between 10 to 15% lower than the other crop, and the mix sugar and ethanol remains better for sugar. Sure, the prices is better for sugar, but if the crop failure are confirmed, we should be reflected more now in sugar, because Brazil will guarantee the ethanol supply commitments in the country. So this is the main point for us. If the numbers are 10 to 15, we need to stop or put this problem just in sugar, because we have commitments here inside the country with the energy and the government to supply the ethanol for the cars. So it's a huge challenge normally to the producers. We can see some impacts to the next season too, because we imagine the planting area was reduced to the next season. So the huge challenge in Brazil, we don't find now, just to divide with you, a lot of problems with COVID-19 in the crop areas, because we have arranged all the points in the last year. We learned a lot to how to deal with this and have the conditions to make it healthy to the employees. But our problem now is, the main problem is the drought for us. So it's the worst season, rain season in the last 90 years, just to tell to you. It's a third. Eduardo knows this. In the region of Eduardo is worse than a third of the rain the last year. So that's our figures for you, and I'm total at disposal for you. Thank you very much, Timothy.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much, and good luck for the drought. We will now move in Colombia, but I'm not sure our member Procania from Colombia has joined. Is there anyone from Colombia? Otherwise, we will move directly to Africa in Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire, Clovis, tu es le président de la FEBCONVC. Je te laisse la parole. Ivory Coast, Clovis Boni is the president of FEBCONVC. Clovis, you have the floor.
Vous m'entendez?
Oui, on t'entend très bien.
Merci, Timothée. Bon, cette année, la campagne sucrière n'a pas été très bonne, parce que nous avons exploité 29 226 hectares avec des rendements de plus de 64 tonnes à l'hectare. Et les recherches aussi, on était autour de 6. Ce qui a fait que nous avons...
Je vais juste traduire, Clovis. This year was not a good year. As you can see in the slide, the acreage is the most stable, but the yield was reduced. Vas-y, Clovis.
OK. Donc, nous avons fait 191 000 tonnes de sucre. Cela s'explique par les conditions climatiques. À titre d'exemple, cette année, nous avons eu des températures maximales de 29 degrés et mini de 19 degrés. Et dans le pays, nous avons eu moins de 1000 mm de pluie. Or, comme on le sait tous, la canne a besoin d'eau dans certaines proportions et à certaines périodes données. Malheureusement, les conditions climatiques ont joué vraiment en notre défaveur.
Okay, so the main problem was climatic conditions with temperature below average, with a maximum temperature at 29 degrees and a minimum temperature at 19 degrees. We're on less than 1,000 millimeters of rain, which is low in the country.
OK, bon, il faut dire aussi qu'au niveau du prix d'achat, depuis 7 ans, les prix d'achat aux planteurs n'ont pas bougé. Nous sommes restés toujours aux environs 22 € dans une sucrerie et 28 € dans une autre sucrerie.
So prices for cane is stable for now the 7th year without review, and the price is considered as low at 22 euros per ton in one factory and at 28 euros per ton in another factory. Not depending on sugar content, just the tonnage of cane.
Bon, concernant les autres nouvelles, il faut dire aussi que nous avons commencé la mécanisation de la coupe. Puisque jusque-là, la coupe se faisait manuellement. Aujourd'hui, sur les 4 usines, les 4 complexes sucriers qui existent, chaque complexe a au moins 2 coupeuses mécaniques pour la récolte. Et le nombre va augmenter au fil des années. Donc cette année, une partie a été coupée mécaniquement et d'autres parties aussi ont été coupées manuellement. C'est la première information.
First point, the mechanization of harvest. Harvest is now mechanized thanks to 2 machines in each of the 4 factories of the country.
Et le deuxième point, c'est que la Côte d'Ivoire a décidé d'être autosuffisant en sucre d'ici l'horizon 2025. Et pour ce faire, les industriels du sucre ont pris la décision d'investir 150 milliards de francs CFA d'ici l'horizon 2025, soit environ 229 millions d'euros pour arriver à atteindre cet objectif qui est l'autosuffisance en sucre.
Second point is what is written here in the slide, a plan towards sugar self-sufficiency, through investment made by the private companies and an investment of something like 230 million euros. And the goal is to reach in 2025 the end of imports in Ivory Coast.
Et enfin, il faut dire aussi que nous avons souffert un peu du Covid avec la perturbation des approvisionnements en intrants et facteurs de production. Et il faut dire aussi que nous avons commencé le vaccin contre le Covid-19 en Côte d'Ivoire, mais cela s'est fait de façon timide parce qu'une bonne partie de la population est un peu hésitante quant au risque, puisqu'on nous avait dit qu'il y a des gens qui ont fait le vaccin et qui en sont morts. Donc, ça fait que la population est un peu pessimiste dans ce sens.
And the 2 last points are concerning COVID. Clovis explained that there is a disruption in agricultural input supplies. And concerning the vaccination, the beginning is slow. And he estimated that this timid beginning, this slow beginning is due mainly to the fact that population do not want to get vaccinated. They consider it as a risk. Merci beaucoup, Clovis. Thank you very much, Clovis.
Merci, Timothée.
A pleasure. Thank you very much. Merci. And now we will move in Europe, in Denmark. In Denmark, I think it is the president of Danske Sukkerudyrkere. Sorry for that. President of growers in Denmark, Troels Fransen. Maybe you will be the one who has the floor.
Yes, thank you. Welcome to the northern part of Europe. We are close to 3 o'clock in the afternoon here. And we have a picture about the beet in Denmark. I think it's on the way on the computer. Yeah, here you can see we have a quite established production, sugar beet production in Denmark. We are 800 beet growers and we have 2 sugar factories. We have no ethanol production here in Denmark. At the moment, we have a nice summer weather here in Denmark, and I will say after an unnormal cold spring, at the moment the sugar beet is growing very well. I can say it has been a very cold and wet start for the season. The season begins in the start of April, and so the sugar beet is at the moment small and behind normal size at this time of the year. I think we are about 2 weeks behind normal size. We are, for the moment, negotiating the contract condition and beet prices for 2022 with our sugar processor. And I can say alternative crops like wheat, malting, barley, and rapeseed have gone up in price. So it's necessary to have an increase in the price for sugar beet for the beet to be able to compete. Here we have a focus on pesticides, where the range of available pesticides are reduced every year. We are for the moment inching a lot of effort trying to obtain a derogation for neonics treated sugar beet seed. Neonics is not allowed for use in Europe, but it's possible to obtain a derogation, although it's very difficult. Sugar beet is a small sector, and Denmark is in general difficult for companies to get new pesticide approved by the authorities. So it's very limited what we get a new pesticide for the sugar beet to replace the old one. And now there are focus on the energy, what the factory is. Excuse me. Yeah. We continue to have focus on the energy switch from oil to coal towards more climate-friendly energy sources for the factories to make a reduce CO2 emission. Thank you here from Denmark.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Troels. Thank you very much for your speech. We will now move back in Africa. We will move in Eswatini from Swaziland. And the one who will speak is the director of the Eswatini Cane Growers Association, Sipho Nkambule. Sipho, you have the floor.
Greetings from Eswatini. The time here is just before 3 o'clock, so it's good afternoon from this side. Our campaign starts in April and runs to November. So we are 3 months into the current campaign, but maybe let me just step back to the previous campaign and say that our area under cane has stayed more or less constant, and even this coming year is not going to change by much. The previous campaign saw a slight increase in the cane yield compared to the previous year, but this was much lower than what we had expected at the beginning of the year. And we have a strong feeling that the aphids infestation might be having a much stronger impact on the crop than we would like to believe. Now, from the commercial side of things, you will realize that our whole previous year campaign was during the pandemic, and the country declared a partial lockdown. And that partial lockdown recognized agriculture and sugarcane processing as essential activities. So we were able to continue with the operations better than other entities or sectors. Now, the current year has started, but before it started, in January, February, we had a cyclone Eloise, which delivered buckets and buckets of rain. And it coincided with the time when we struggled to meet crop water requirements. So when we combine that with the slightly above average radiation, we are looking forward to a better crop. And the other thing I can say about the previous campaign is that we got a much better price than we had anticipated. Part of the reason is that due to the lockdowns around the world, and in Southern Africa in particular, there was limited deep sea imports entering the market. Therefore, there was a bit of a shortage in the local Southern African Customs Union. And that resulted in a better price than we had anticipated. Now, this campaign that we have just started, our estimate is that we're going to be slightly above last year's, but there is an upside to that estimate. The campaign has started with average quality. People on the north, they report relatively poorer quality, and then people in the south are happier with the quality. So we are looking at average quality. And having learned from last year, we are hopeful that this year also might be better commercially due to the lockdowns which are still in place to varying degrees. So if, as I'm talking now, we are seeing resurgence in the cases which may be indicating the start of a third wave. Now, we don't know how severe it is going to be, but we hope that we'll be able to operate, and based on the experience from last year, we may end up having more people sitting at home, therefore more baking and more consumption of sugar, which might result in a better price. Basically, that's what I can say. We will have a better volume and we're hoping for a better price, and that better volume might be even better looking at the fundamentals. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Sipo. Thank you. Just a point, I realize that it's already almost 3 here in France, and we have only 10 speakers that already speak. So please now try to get 3 minutes per speech, otherwise it will be late at night for our friend Paul in Australia. We will now move in Fiji, but I think in Fiji it's almost midnight, and I fear that the director of the Sugarcane Growers Council, Vimal Dutt, I think he did not join us. So we will move directly back in Europe, in Finland. In Finland, Antti Lavonen, maybe from MTK, will be the speaker. So Antti, you have the floor.
Thank you, and greetings from Finland. We are the northernmost sugar beet producing country in the world, and we are situated in northern Europe, in between Sweden and Russia, and we are producing around 40% of our sugar in Finland from sugar beet. and we have one factory left in Finland. The company is called Sucrose, and it's owned 80% by German Nordzucker. And the impact of COVID could be seen last year in Finland. The seed could not be dressed with the neonicotinoids for which we had the emergency authorization last year and this year, and because of the lockdown in Europe at that time. But now it seems that the situation is much better, and we have no problems with the inputs so far, and logistics works okay. So everything is going in right direction in that sense. I tell little about Conviso Smart method, which seems to be getting more and more popular in Finland. It's a way to make weed control much easier and enhancing the weed control. There's a special variety developed by KWS from Germany, and an ALS herbicide from Bayer. And nowadays it's about 40% of the total area in Finland where we produce the Conviso Smart varieties. It requires special crop rotation and the polter removal. We have to be very careful with that, because wild beet would be a real problem. So, and then the last one, we have new common agricultural policy coming in the EU, and among other countries, Finland, we are planning here what the next 7 years will be like. And there will be a very strong emphasis on environmental and climate action, and that concerns every farmer in Finland, not only sugar beet growers. And we are afraid that this impact will have a negative effect at the yield levels we are going to get from beets. All in all, sugar beet is a very good climate plant in terms of carbon sequestration during the growing season. So it would be valuable to have it in our crop rotation in Finland. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Note that the new Common Agricultural Policy in Europe will begin on the 1st January of 2023, but is now designed. Now we will stay in Europe, and we will move in France. Jean-Pierre Dubray, you are a member of the board of the CGB, the growers, beet growers in France. You have the floor.
Microphone. Thank you, Timothy. I try to go quickly because I need to listen my general director. As you see in France, in 2 years, the acreage is going down about 10%. Why? Because the main important things that last year we have a great problem about yield, a great problem which due to yellow virus. And about France, we lost about 30% of yield about sugar beet, and in some regions that's going about 70–80% lost about yield. It's the reason why the confidence of this crop is difficult, but now that's better. Why? Because the derogation, we can put in place a derogation for 3 years to use neonic, And like that, we think even if condition which is additional with this derogation is not easy to put in place, but that give a new confidence for sugar beet. And now French grower are ready to put and to follow this challenge. And we hope in a 3 year we have the solution in front of Neonic, and government and other association put 20 million euro for research to have a solution in 3 years. That's for 2021. In 2021, sorry. In the 2021, the area is going down about 6%. But we have another problem once again. We have a hard frost in April, and 50,000 hectares were affected, and the grower is seems again sugar beet. But we will see, because this sugar beet, this 50,000 hectares, is putting in the soil about without neonic, and we will see the result at the end of the summer. Price are still low in Europe. It's under the price under the reference threshold, and for the last point, we have a new Finland and representative of Finland, and we have a new CAP for 2023-2027, and we hope that CAP for sugar beet have a real positive impact. We will see in few weeks now, or in few days, because it's imminent about the result. Thank you, Timothée, and thank you for your attention.
Merci, Jean-Pierre. Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre. Let's move in Germany. In Germany, we have 3 members association, but the one who will speak today is Ulf Wegener. Ulf, you have the floor.
Yeah, Timothy, thanks a lot. Hello to everybody, to all members of the World Association. I'm really looking forward to give a report for whole Germany. Starting with the fact and figures, you see the figures from 2020, the last harvest, on an area of 351,000 hectares. We grown beet, and we kept this area also in this year, in the running year. Last year, we had, let's say, an average yield with 11.7 sugar yield tons per hectare in the field. And that was more or less affected by 2 points, by 2 issues. First of all, the first signs of the climate change. We had a drought season, a dry season last year in the beginning of the vegetation. So that was 1 point. And secondly, we had first time in a row of, let's say, 30 years, damages from the occurrence of virus yellows. And that was really something new for us, especially in regions in the west and in the southern part of Germany. And at that point, we started really strong initiatives and actions from the grower associations to convince, let's say, the decision makers to get an emergency approval for the next year, for this year, for the running year, and that was successful. You can see that under the first point, the affected regions from last year, they got an emergency approval for the use of neonic seed treatment for this year, but only in that affected areas, and also under high restrictions of handling, let's say, these seeds and these techniques. Secondly, the second bullet point, some words about, maybe started with the market. We see a slightly price stabilization for sugar. The sugar producers sold the sugar last year, the last season, on a level of 350 to 400 euro per ton of white sugar. And the corresponding sugar beet prices were, let's say, on the level of 30 euro per ton ex-field for conventional grown beets, and so around 100 euro per ton for ecological grown beets. So that was not too much, but we are still in hope that this year we get better prices, because we see on the other hand increasing prices on the alternatives in the crops. We see the increasing prices for wheat, for rapeseed, and also corn. So that gives a little bit of hope that the coming season is better than the last in terms of prices. The COVID situation in Germany is now actually relaxing a little bit. We were strongly affected, like all the other companies or the countries. The companies, the sugar producers, managed, let's say, the business quite well. So there were some losses in volumes, etc. But it turned now by the vaccination, what is accelerated the last days and weeks. So the situation is starting to relaxing a little bit. But it's still not possible to meet at the fields, and also trade fairs are not possible. So we have to be a little bit patient for that. In Germany, we have in the autumn elections on federal and regional level. So we started an image campaign for sugar, for the use of sugar, and explained the fact and figures to the politicians and also to the society. That is the last sentences under point 2, and coming to pests and diseases. We introduced more intensive beet monitoring and warning systems, especially for virus yellows, but also for the leaf spot diseases. Another point is the mechanical weed control, where a lot of activities and initiatives started because of less availability of chemical herbicides, and that is something what hit us more and more. And also in the perspective of the coming years, I think we have to act on with the modern techniques to control the weed in a proper way. That is what we see not only in beet but also in the other crops. So that's where I stop here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ulf. Thank you. We will now move east. Let's go in India. Mr. Deshmukh, you are the director of the Vasantdada Sugar Institute. Mr. Deshmukh, I give you the floor. Mr. Deshmukh, are you with us?
Microphone, Timothy.
Turn your microphone on.
You need to switch on your mic, Mr. Deshmukh, so that we can hear you.
Am I audible now?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
We can hear you very well.
Good evening from here. India, it is 6:30 here now. And ours is a research institute based in Pune in India. Our crushing season is just ending now, May. And it will again start from October. In the last season, COVID-19 did not affect directly, but distant the season maintenance work. We face shortage of labor for cane harvesting, but the climatic conditions were very favorable. So the yields were very good. However, India is facing a problem of huge opening stock of sugar. Almost about 10 million tons still stock is there. In addition to this year's another 30. Our consumption is around 25, 26 million. So the huge stock is there. And diversion of excess sugar cane is necessary. And India is taking steps to divert it for ethanol production. I'll come to that point later. But here we are trying one thing. Here sugarcane is typically perennial irrigation crop, and southern India, that is peninsular India, always suffers from drought conditions, and the crushing days decrease day by day. Normally it should have been between 160 to 180, but now they are about 120. And so we are exploring the possibility of cultivation of sugar beet. It's a short duration crop requiring less water. And we have been experimenting this crop for the last 5-6 years. And now this year, we are also taking the help of United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization for producing the tropical sugar beet seed. We got 10 lines from that organization and we are developing it. And with the help of European beet seed producing companies, this will hopefully start this sugar beet seed production in India to tide over the situation of this shortage of water. Now I'm coming to the
Well, thank you very much, sir. If it's finished now, well, I thank you very much.
Okay.
Let's move to.
Taking my time
Thank
is
you,
over,
sir.
I believe. Okay.
Thank you very much. Let's move now in Kenya, and I think we have with us Beatrice Anyongo Odiwa. Madam, you are the manager of the Sugar Directorate. Are you with us from Kenya?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. I did not receive your PowerPoint, but if you have a few words to tell us, that would be most welcome.
Thank you so much. So about Kenya, we have 15 sugar companies in Kenya, and we have investors who are still interested in the sugar industry in Kenya. And right now, we are moving towards sucrose-based cane payment as opposed to weight-based cane payment. And so far, we have installed around 11 cane testing units in the country as we transition towards sucrose-based cane payment. Thank you. I hope to be able to give you a slide next time. Thank you, and sorry for that.
No problems. Thank you very much, Madam. And for those who are used to WBCG by the past, it was Sospeter Ndede, who was the leader from Kenya. Now you will join our work, and you are most welcome with us. Now let's move in Malawi. Malawi, Frighton and Jolomole, you are the president of the Sugarcane Growers Association of Malawi. Frighton, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Timothy. A pleasure to be with you once again, colleagues, friends all over the world. Malawi, this year, Malawi had actually done a very good job. And the farmers, the factories did quite a good job. And say we enjoyed our work during this year, although with the pandemic, things were upside down. And I'm joined with Charles Chavi, who is acting Sorghum secretary now. He's acting. He's the one who has actually accompanied me on this session. Year in review, 2020, 2021. You can actually see 2021, we had about the yield per hectare was 100 tons per hectare, which was indeed very good for us. And sugar yield in the field was about 15.4 tons per hectare. And the total sugar production came up to 263 metric tons. Ethanol, if you can go down a little bit. Yes, okay. Ethanol. Now on the same sugarcane, there is a factory, annual factory. This is now its third year. They only produced 15,963 metric tons last year because of COVID-19. The factory is actually composed of people, particularly the expatriates from India. And last year during the COVID-19, because of the lockdown in India and in Malawi, their maintenance team could not enter into Malawi to do the maintenance work. So they came in very late. That's why they only worked very few months and managed to produce 15,963 tons. Generally, the weather wasn't as bad. The weather was very good, and people actually harvested very well. And smuggling of sugar, the millers' lack of, and those are some of the problems that our industry is facing in Malawi. Smuggling of sugar from outside coming to Malawi, that obviously affects the sales of the outgrowers, including the miller itself. And on the part of the miller, lack of transparency. That's the main one that is actually affecting us, and we're working day and night to resolve that. We have come up again with the sugar bill. In fact, our people, the farmers, wanted to strike, they wanted to march, but fortunately enough, just last week, we were called by the Minister of Agriculture to discuss about this thing. So it's actually not a big issue now. If you can go down again.
I think it's your
that's
last slide. Thank you, Friday.
Exactly. Okay.
Thank
But
you.
Philippe, I cannot actually leave before I say something on Joe Funkata. I wish to thank each and every one of you for the messages you sent, messages of condolence. That was just fantastic. It actually made us happy, and we feel now that we are part of you people, and we think it's a family. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brighton, and welcome, Charles. You are welcome here in the WBCG family. Let's move in Mauritius. In Mauritius, Devesh Dukira, you are the director of the Mauritius Sugar Syndicate. Devesh, you have the floor.
Thank you, Timothy. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning to those in Europe and the US. Well, the 2020 crop in Mauritius was harshly impacted by climate change. Firstly, cane growth was affected by dry weather conditions that had prevailed during that phase. And by the start of the harvest in June, the average cane height recorded was lagging behind that at the same time the previous year by almost 8%. The persisting rain shortfall entailed the drying out of the cane, and cane productivity fell to a low of just under 60 tons of cane per hectare, compared with 75 tons of cane per hectare in the previous year, and the last 5 years average of 73 tons of cane per hectare. The last time such low productivity was observed was for the drought-stricken crop of 1999, when it had reached 53 tons of cane per hectare. A record low 2.6 million tons of cane were finally harvested, compared with 3.4 million tons in the previous year. And despite an increase in the extraction rate to 10.3%, compared with the last 5 years average of 9.7%, it was insufficient to allow sucrose recovery. And the crop outturn in 2020 was consequently finalized at just over 270,000 tons of sugar, which was 60,000 tons, but is 18% below the previous crop outturn. As for the 2021 crop, the harvest is starting next week and should last till the second half of December. The cane growth in this case has unfortunately also been affected by insufficient rain in October and November last year, and also the first 2 months of the new year. Despite the torrential rain in March and April, cumulative rainfall to date is still lagging behind by some 10%. And the stalk height was on average 4% as at last month, below the long-term average. And given the erratic weather conditions which have prevailed, the overall impact on the next harvest is still unclear as we speak. And the first official production estimate should be known by the end of this month. The continuous decline in acreage and the cultivation remains a major concern for all stakeholders in Mauritius. In fact, in 2020, a further 1,300 hectares of land have been abandoned and has now reached a mere 43,700 hectares. This is almost 30%, 30, cumulative reduction since the end of the sugar protocol in 2009, which, as most of you would know, used to avail Mauritius, like other ACP beneficiaries, of guaranteed prices of its sugar in the European market. The disadvantage of Mauritius is we have a small domestic market, which is a mere 35,000 tons, and therefore its production is heavily exposed to the price distortion in the world market, and even in the EU after liberalization of the EU beet sugar production quotas in 2017. In fact, over the last 10 years, the net sugar proceeds obtainable by producers reach the viability price levels over only 4 years, so 4 out of the 10 years, which in fact explains the persistent abandonment of cane cultivation, especially among the more vulnerable planters. Irrespective of a 30% increase in producers' net sugar proceeds for the 2019 crop to 11,300 rupees, which is equivalent of $285 per ton of sugar, due to the improved market conditions compared to the preceding campaign, but also because of a depreciation of the Mauritian rupee as a result of the COVID-19 related confinements. But this price level was still well below the average viability price, which is now close to $425 per ton of sugar. As the rupee has meanwhile weakened further, and prices payable to producers for the 2020 crop is now estimated at some 13,000 rupees, which is 15% above last year's price level. The government in Mauritius has expressed its commitment to ensure the industry remains viable, given its multifunctional contribution. And further structural reforms are awaited, namely with respect to an improvement in its competitiveness and a better valuation of other revenue streams of the cane, namely bagasse, which is already being used for the production of electricity, presently accounting for 15% of the power supply to the national grid, and also molasses. Now around 60% of the molasses produced in Mauritius being used for production of ethanol, around 18,000 meter cube annually. Government has enlisted the support of the World Bank to undertake a thorough review of the competitiveness of the industry and make recommendations how it can become viable in the long term. The consultants have already submitted their report to government, and the recommendations should be announced and implemented forthwith. I've completed, Timothy. Thank you.
Thank you, Devesh. Thank you very much. Let's go to Central America in Mexico. Carlos Blacaler, you are the president of the Unión Nacional de Cañeros, the Growers Association in Mexico. Carlos, puedes hablar.
Yes, hi to everyone. In Mexico, we are almost near the finishing 2021 harvest. The area is around the same from the last 2 years. With sugar production areas are still recovering from a severe drop in 2019. Our yields are in the average, below average of 5 years. Mexico is estimating 5.7 million tons production for this 2021 season, and the estimates for next season are at around a bit more than 6 million tons. We expect 6% more sugar from this year. The market in Mexico corresponds 70%, 65 to 70% of the sugar to the domestic market, and the remainder goes to exports, mainly to the US. At around 1/3 of the exports goes to world market, and 2/3 goes to the US quota. Related to the present season, sugarcane area cultivated is 900,000 hectares. The harvested area is at around 780,000 hectares. We are more than 183,000 growers, and there are around 55,000 mill workers. All the industry, the sugarcane industry, makes at around 2.5 million direct and indirect jobs. We crush at around 50 to 57 million tons of sugar cane, and the potential is at around 6.8 million tons. But because of weather, we are producing from 5.5 to 6 million tons of sugar. The domestic consumption is stagnated at 3.9 to 4 million tons. Related to COVID, is to say that vaccination is advancing by age groups. Next week, the government is asking people of 40 and over years to take vaccinations. We think it's advancing slowly, but it's a good pace, we suppose. During the season, COVID affected people mainly of the mills and organizations, not farm or field workers. And we are working together with NGOs, the health authorities, mills and growers to promote information related to COVID. What is affecting us? Labeling regulations and sugar taxes. The groups which promote those issues are still pushing for more restrictions and higher tariffs. We growers and millers are counteracting and working on campaigns and lobbying against that. Weather change, as I've been hearing in this meeting, is also a concern. We are experiencing negative effects due to erratic temperatures and erratic rain. There's a grower's concern on taking action to better practices to preserve humidity loss, the reduction of chemical uses, and also to incorporate the use of biological products for soil and pest controls. Also, not burning the cane for harvest and also not burning the residue and incorporating it to the soil are practices that we are seeing more commonly at the moment. This is what we have from Mexico. Recently, we participated in the news flash from WABCG, where more information is contained. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Carlos. I'm sorry because Alex Crick told me that you are not in Central America, and you are in Northern America, and this is entirely true. So now let's definitely move in. Let's definitely move in Central America, in Nicaragua. José Antonio Mayorga Herrera, you are the president of APRICO, the Growers Association in Nicaragua. José, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Mote. Morning to all. I hope you are in good health. You can see with harvest is November to April or May. We are finished already the 2021, the harvest 2021. You can see we have a reduction of 5,000 hectares because the low international price. excuse me for my English. In production, we were better in agriculture yield. We increased 4.3%. And we have reduction in total sugar production in about 24,000 ton metric of sugar. We have a irregular distribution of rain the last 2 years because the last year we have impact of 2 big hurricanes, but very near to begin the harvest. And that's the rain delayed the start of the harvest and left the access road and sugarcane plantation in poor condition. Now we have new more taxes in pesticide and fertilizer, and we are happy about the very good prices, international good prices, and that's the more important thing we have, Timote. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Jose. Now we will move in Europe, in Romania. In Romania, we will have Johan German. Johan, you are the director of the Romanian Sugar Beet Growers Association. Johan, if you are with us, you have the floor.
Thank you, Timothy. And good afternoon for everybody, and good morning for the others. In the last 2 years, in my country, the spring have been dry and with low temperature during the night, with difficult conditions for sowing and rising sugar beets. In May and June, the rains were enough and the beet fields looked well. But in July, August, and September, very high temperature and drought conditions producing a sharp decrease in root and sugar production and in sugar content, as shown in the data presented in the table. I tell you that all sugar beet area was not irrigated in my country. In 2022, the climatic conditions in spring were better than in previous years, and May and June the rain were enough to make the beet field look like well. Due to the low sugar and beet price, the profitability of the crop has fallen, and the sugar beet area has decreased by 3,000 hectares compared to 2020, last year. In 2020 campaign, we expected to increase the sugar content and the sugar yield and in my country. It is necessary to have increase the price of sugar beet or be competitive with the other in the next time with the other crops. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur German. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Now let's move in South Africa. And in South Africa, Thomas Funke from Cane Growers is with us. Thomas, are you here? If yes, you have the floor. Yes, he was not sure he could join, so maybe we will move directly in Sudan. The Kenana sugar company, Hassan Erwa, maybe you are with us. You did not have time, I think, to send us a PowerPoint, but if you have a few words to say, you can say it now. Otherwise, we will go back in Europe, in Sweden. And I think in Sweden, Jacob Bennett from Betodlarna, president of the growers, is with us. Jacob, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Thank you very much, Timothy, and hope you can hear me. Well, we are running out of time, so I will make this very quickly. And well, the Swedish sugar production is not the biggest in the world, but it's very stable. We are having around close to 30,000 hectares, and we are producing around 300,000 tons of white sugar. And if we look into the present campaign or the present crop, we are experiencing, we had a quite late drilling season, and it's been wet and it's been cold. So the beets are, I would say, a week up to 10 days delayed compared to a normal year. So we are not expecting a record year this coming season. If we look at the specific situation in Sweden, we can say that the last campaign was the second year with delay. Our campaign ended at the 9th of February. Last year, I think it was around 14th of February. And this is due to problems at the site we have in Örtoft. As you know, we only have one factory in Sweden, and Nordzucker is investing heavily in that site, which is very good, which is very, very positive, of course. But nevertheless, there are problems when you are investing in a site at the same time as you try to run it, so to say. There are startup problems. But the big investments at Örtoft continues, and it's big investment mainly in logistics, packaging, and less energy, which is very, very, very popular nowadays to consume less CO2. COVID-19 we have talked a lot about, and what's interesting to see in Sweden is that COVID-19 has brought a stronger demand of Sweden as a region, and this is a trend we haven't really seen in the past in Sweden. The consumer hasn't really thought about what they've been buying, whether it's Swedish, Danish, or German, or South American. But it's a very, very strong trend at the moment, is that products with Swedish origin has become very, very strong in the food shops. So this is positive, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacob. Interesting. Thanks. And now we can use a car or maybe a boat just to go in the Netherlands, which is not so far. And I think the president of Royal Kosoen is with us, Dirk de Lucht. Dirk, or maybe Martin. Martin, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Timothy. I agreed with Dirk that I would do the presentation. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all members of WABTG. I would like to say these are the votes from the Netherlands. As you can see, we have also a stable acreage in the Netherlands, around 80,000 hectares. I can tell you that the latest figure for this season is 82,400 hectares. The plant yield is 84 and not the 89 that has been mentioned in reports of GRC Mars. So we're a bit conservative, I think, at the moment, 84 tons. Also considering last year, which was a very bad season. And I think the reasons have been mentioned by other members before. It was a very dry season, summer season, followed by a very wet autumn. Luckily, we had some frost this winter, so our hopes for this year are a bit better. But also, we experienced some coldness in the sowing season. So, well, the crop is still a bit behind. Maybe some points to discuss. Virus yellow. We had the ban on neonics in 2019. We did not get the new derogation in 2021. We do have some other plant protection means, but we can only reduce the damage and not exclude the damage. And it's interesting to see that it was in 2019 part of the growing regions, and in 20 it were all the growing regions faced with virus yellows. We also have issues with Cercospora. We are developing a nationwide monitoring system in cooperation with our Beet Institute, Beet Research Institute, to warn for leaf fungus. Also mentioned by our German friends, we are also investigating on mechanical weed testing. As I mentioned, we had a wet autumn 2020, some frost in February, which improved the soil conditions. We had some minor rain and hail issues last weeks, but it has been dry for the last couple of days, and the prospects are looking a lot better than before. We hope for a sunny and warm summer, but not too hot as it was in the previous years. Thank you, Timothy. Back to you.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you very much. Let's go in Turkey, but I think we used to have Aize Pelivanli. He joined us, but I think he just left from Pankobirlik. So we will not stay in Turkey, and we will go in UK, in United Kingdom. And it's probably Michael Sly, the president of NFU Sugar Board, who will be the speaker, or maybe James or Arthur. Is there anyone in UK?
Hello, everybody. Arthur here. You get the pleasure of me for this session, but I'll try and keep it sweet. I'll keep it short and sweet so that you don't give me nil points for my presentation. So moving swiftly on, you can see in the slide there we had a disastrous year in 2020/21. Very similar to the French. If I quoted some numbers, they'd be very similar to the figures Jean-Pierre quoted for yield loss. So to take that as a similar situation for us, we suffered significantly from the loss of neonics and from virus yellows in the year. We estimate that growers lost upwards of £43 million last year, which is around $61 million US. And that's across a crop size of around 1 million tons of sugar, 2,500 beet growers. So that's significant, but individually, some growers lost significantly more than that, over 50% of their crop due to these issues. This year, the crop itself looks certainly better. We benefited from a colder winter. We were granted emergency authorization for neonics this year, but on the condition of the winter weather being warm enough to need them. As it panned out, the winter temperatures were cold enough not to trigger their use, so we continue to not have neonics on the crop this year, which means should we get any difficulties, we are still reliant on sprays. Nonetheless, the crop had a slow start, a cold and wet spring, similar to the rest of Europe. The crop is now looking better. It's moving forward, but it'll have to overcome that delay just to recover the yield potential, as a few other countries have focused on. So I think the challenges for us is working with the processors to try to bridge these short-term challenges, because we've had a challenge with the processor not really looking ahead to plan for these problems, but instead just reacting to them after they've happened, which we've seen in a number of things, and is a real challenge for us because it makes it very difficult for us to plan ahead as an industry. So that's one of the big challenges we're trying to overcome. We do, however, believe there is some long-term opportunities if we can get through this short-term challenges that we face. So as I think you all know, the UK has now left the European Union. The government has a lot of power to do things that it previously couldn't decide in the UK level. We've got a new British agricultural policy. It's got control over trade policies. There's a lot of new policy changes coming our way. We're optimistic that the government has signalled it is going to look favourably upon the potential of gene editing. So we think perhaps in 10 years' time, we could see some opportunity there for innovation that we previously haven't been able to access. But as I say, we need to bridge the challenges we've got right now, because as it stands, the crop this year, growers have planted 12 to 15% less beet area. It's a real challenge to make the crop stack up for growers. And so we do need a better share of the risk and reward. We believe there is enough income in the industry to make it work and make it balanced, but we need to be able to see growers get a return from beet to make that balance. And the final note from me, I couldn't not mention it with Australia hosting us here, is to thank them again for all their help with the development of our new pricing world futures market pricing linked model. There are 61 growers piloting that this year, and we've been delighted to see the opportunities that's provided, and that has allowed growers to get a significantly better price by hedging at the right time sales, at the same time as the processor has been able to purchase that sugar beet at a price that's very attractive for them. So it's been a win-win situation, and we think this is it's innovations like that will allow the industry to survive and thrive in the challenges we face. So I thank Paul and Dan and Warren and everybody else at Cane Growers for their help with setting that up.
Thank you very much, Arthur. So Arthur, you are in charge of economy in the NFU Sugar Board. But I thought you were speaking about the FTA with Australia when you wanted to thank the Australian. But great, congratulations for futures. And now we will finish our trip and we will move in USA with David Thompson. David, you are president of the Red River Valley Sugar Beet Growers Association. David, you have the floor.
Thank you, Timothy. And greetings to all from the Red River Valley of Minnesota, North Dakota. First of all, just a quick recap of the 2020 crop. As reported, the lack of rainfall last summer led us to having an extremely small crop. Harvest was over by October 15th. Processing at all 5 factories went great. The last factory finished processing beets on April 13th of 2021. 2 of the factories were able to extract sugar out of the molasses, so they went for a couple more weeks. And now all the factories are involved in maintenance programs and getting some updates. Moving on to the 2021 crop. All areas of the valley are starting out very dry. Planting started in mid-April, finished by May 10th. Once the beets are in the ground, conditions have not improved a lot. As you probably heard, the upper Midwest of the United States is in extreme drought conditions, and Mother Nature has tested our young beets. We've had drought. We had 10 days ago, we had temperatures in the mid-20s. We've had strong winds, and now we've got 100-degree temperatures. Parts of the River Valley have received some rainfall, but the southern part is still waiting. I'll hopefully have a happier ending to this story when I can talk to you all in London. Resistant weeds continue to be a problem, and today on our farm, we're starting to spray to eliminate the root maggot flies. So point 1 there, we've always had a struggle with the EPA, our Environmental Protection Agency, as far as regulations and the tools needed to deal with resistant weeds. Water hemp and Palmer amaranth are becoming a huge problem. When trying to get any new chemistry or technology approved, it seems to take far too long. There is a triple stack herbicide beet seed that's in the pipeline, but they say it's still 5 years out, and our fear is that by the time 5 years is up, these weeds are going to be resistant to this chemistry also. The second point, as you all know, we have a new administration in place, and it seems to be a shift to more of an environmental concerns. You've seen us get back into the Paris Accord. Emission levels for both vehicles and factories are on the drawing board. Also capturing carbon and carbon credits is the new idea, which fits into sustainable farming, which we all as farmers are concerned about. So we'll see where this all takes us. And with that, that's going to conclude my report, because it's always fun being last. So thank you, Timothy.
Thank you very much, David. I think it is the end of our around the world tour. And Eduardo, I think I give you the floor if you want to conclude.
Thank you for everybody. It was a very nice presentation. And if I may just say some bullet points here. What everybody is about regulation and environment, just to look after sustainability. That's something that's it's a challenging for everybody. Well, we had to just sit over these two troubles and see how we can work out with them. Maybe the good experience of each other became challenging and get a better way to go down. Besides, the agriculture inputs just get higher. The climate change, it's for everywhere. And the control of pests, the old one and the new ones, that's a challenging one. And like the Germans once said, the image of sugar supply chains to explain to the population and the politicians, it's very important for everybody. You have to work hard on that too. And for the first time, we just heard to weed control mechanically. That's something that we had to work with. Anyway, it's a very good meeting. And I must say that for the another around the world sections will be in November 22. And we may see if you'll be in Rio or virtually. We are going to discuss this in our private sections. In 2 weeks, we'll be deciding on that, which way we're going to be. And besides, the next week we have the Australian presentation. We are just look forward to it. We had a lot of good information from Paul, isn't it? And anyway, I would like to say thank you for everybody. Timothy, if you may.
Yes, I have nothing else to say. Just there were some questions in the screen, but I think we won't have time to reply. So I think Sibe had question concerning GMOs in Brazil, but I suppose that you will reply them by mail. And we had also some question concerning products in Mexico, and I think I will give you the different email address so that you can exchange together. I have nothing to add. Just see you next week. So next week we're going to Australia, and as you said, the next Around the World session will be on the 22nd of November. So have a good day, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Good night, good evening.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye from the UK. Bye.
Bye.